this is the language we can use here is that you're seeing that there's true and there's truer and there's more true. Yeah. But what we want to make sure that we don't do, and you're not, that's clear, is to make truer the enemy of truth. And in other words, you're seeing more clearly, and that's beautiful. And what we want to do is keep our eye on the fact that this is, God, this is beautiful. This is more than I've ever seen, and more than I've ever felt, more than I've ever known, whatever. So this is more true than ever. But the truth itself, as you say, it cannot be spoken. But when we are flirting with the outer edges of our ability to express something, that's the opening of the membrane, so to speak, that I talk about between, and Nisargadatta would have talked about the membrane between, or he didn't use the word membrane, but the difference between I am and awareness itself and the absolute is that it's known in a living sort of way, but we don't know what we know. It's just, right? It's just because there's no knowing that, but there's no denying it. That's the attempt to stop it is just going to further engage it, and it'll just get, and the spinning will get faster and faster and worse and worse. So what you want to do is just pull back. Notice that that you already know that that's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So noticing that it's not true means that you're actually not required to believe in it or act on it. You can just notice that there's this spinning over here, and I seem to be okay anyway. There's a sense that everything's going to collapse, but what you notice, or what I notice at least, is that whether you do or don't worry about it, what's going to happen is going to happen. Yeah. So you may find the unit takes action one way or the other, but it won't be because you told it to. It's telling you this is what we're doing. Like earlier today, I had a sense that I was going to stay in the chair reading, and suddenly I realized I need to go to the bathroom. And I didn't sit there and try to argue. The body doesn't actually, it feels like it does. I get all that. And we don't want to be stupid and egoically go out and walk in front of a car just to prove that I'm, a dream. Right. But the body doesn't actually need your management. You're not managing the body. The body's managing the body. And awakeness is, and the body's moving in the only way that it can. When you cough, it's because nothing else could happen. When you go to the store, it's because nothing else could have ever happened. And I don't like really could have and should have and would have and all that. I don't like that. I use it because it's convenient, but it's not. But what it comes down to is everything happens as it must, which includes, because just notice the difference. You had a dream in the night. You woke up and there was some stirring up there, but there was also some noticing this is bullshit, right? Yes, and that's waking. That's awakeness itself. Whatever is spotting an unskillful pattern is not part of the pattern itself. That's awakeness noticing it. And as we allow awakeness to, and just using language, as awakeness allows itself to come to know itself more and more, then it gets to where that becomes a more and more distant thing. Like when I, other than the few hours, other than the day or two, because I have no idea of time during that time for sure. But after my surgery, when there was just so much pain, that was all that's all that was known, was that the world was pain. And but shortly thereafter, I had a thing like sort of like what Glenda said, which was I just noticed that that there was a seeking track. And when I noticed that I was seeking, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know it was good or bad or whatever, but I knew that I recognized that I was seeking, and I knew there was something about seeking that was very, very important, and I needed to remember it. I needed to get it, and I couldn't get it to save my life, and I needed to find out. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, oh, of course, there's the important part about seeking. It doesn't work. And the seeing that it doesn't work, that's not you, or it's not Keith or Fred.
That's not you, right.
Awakeness.
That's awakeness seeing that.
Yeah, that's it. And so awakeness, like they used to say in Sherlock Holmes a lot, the game is afoot. And so, right. So when that happens, the game is afoot. And awakeness is here, and it's always here. It is the here, but it's consciously here. There's only awakeness, but it's just not conscious of itself through it's not conscious of itself through trees and dogs, but it's certainly there. It's there because there's nothing else. But it's awakeness wearing a tree suit or really suit or whatever.
So should I be asking that question, like, where is it coming from, or where?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's good. Where is this coming from? Or you can say, so whose thought is this?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Whose thought is this? And what you can ask instead of who am I? Something you could try that was more effective for me was, what am I? What am I? And I found it to be much more effective than who am I? So yeah, that's a good thing to notice, is that you say that, and it brings a great sadness to me, but is it true? Whose sadness is it? Do you notice that there's sadness? Do you need to claim it? Do you need to say, oh golly, I feel so sad? Or can you just notice that there's sadness? In Hindu cosmology, as I understand it, Brahman is sort of equivalent to my oneness.
Yes.
And so what is it that oneness is disappointed in? Just a word. Keep noticing. Just keep noticing that every time you look for this is just a variation on who am I, what am I? Is that because it's my perception? Who's the owner of this my? Right? There's no one there, and that's what we have to notice. We have to notice it again and again. And if you keep noticing this, then what's going to happen is you're going to notice. You're going to be able to have the living experience of the fact that it's not Robert noticing. There's no Robert. There's no Robert in this room. I can't see a Robert. There is no Robert. You can't see a Robert either, but you can see something you thought was a Robert, and you can look and thought that this was Robert's world. And then instead, I would suggest that you look and realize that this is you. You've been looking at yourself since birth, but you didn't know it. You knew it when you didn't know it. That was your experience, sort of a semi-conscious experience of it. For the first 18 months, maybe 2 years, something. And then you fell in with the me, my, mine story that your parents fed you. You're a Robert. And this is your stuff. And and Robert is going to grow up to be an engineer or whatever, and they just layer it on. Robert's going to school. Robert's making good grades, bad grades, average grades, whatever, and but all of that is just story. There's no Robert, and that's what you.
Well,
and it won't be Robert that sees it. If you're not careful, you'll be waiting for Robert to get this, and Robert won't. But you don't know who I is. How can you say that when you don't know who I is? How do you know I feel responsible when you don't know who I is? Are you sure? Can you find an I that really feels responsible, or is that just a sort of a sense of something? I feel a finger. Who's the I? You're making up. In order for you to see a finger, there has to be a you there. See, in the absence of a me,
yes,
there's no such thing as other. And so, and when there's other, there's no sense when the sense of other is consciously recognized.
yes,
it won't be by the one who thought this is hell, or this is great, or this is good, or this is bad, or this is my idea. It will just be seeing. See, there is no like, and here, let's just do a little test here, just to kind of give you a feel for it. And it's real quick, but it's pretty profound. So find something in that room and tell me that to look at, and tell me what it is and how far away it is from the Robert unit. But don't try to stare it down. Just look at the lamp.
yes, sir.
Okay, and now I want you to tell me when you're looking at that lamp, and I want you to look at it and not me. And when you're looking at the lamp, tell me, can you actually find where the seer ends and the scene begins? There's no separation there.
Yeah.
That's the truth. And you can see it for yourself anytime you want to by doing that test. That test will work for the rest of your life. It works here. And so if there's any confusion whatsoever, just do that. And notice that there's no one here. That there's complaining, perhaps. Often there's complaining. When there's the sense of a character, there will be complaining following very quickly if it doesn't lead with it. Usually leads with it. So notice that you can't find the one that you're saying, but I'm suffering. Is that true? Can you find the one that's suffering? Or is there just a sense of suffering and a claim that it's mine? What if you just had the sense of suffering and you didn't claim it was yours? It only makes all the difference in the world. I had been I was in hell 3.5 months ago. Just, I cannot tell you. I cannot possibly express. But it was absolutely terrible. But the moment that I recognized who I had been all along, then there was a distance that opened up, because now that wasn't my problem.
Yes.
It was Fred's. And I can't find a Fred. I don't know about a Fred. I just know there's a habit here that just speaks of a Fred and all that. And that's fine. So it's Fred's, but there is no Fred. But the big, it's not the big deal is not that it's Fred's. The big deal is it's not mine. And can you actually find anything that you do have? But then you can try the other way, so can you find anything that you don't have? Can you find an outside to this space? Yeah, and there's Will is such a creep, just a little guy that's just not worthy of knowing about Brahman or whatever. All that's just bullshit. I'm sorry, but that's the truth of it. The idea that Brahman is the august one over there is missing the point. Everybody worships Brahman, which means that there is a great culture of self-worship in India. And there's one in Columbia, South Carolina, too. But this one is conscious. Over there, even Ramana spoke of Brahman. Why not? It's a term. And if I think that everybody will understand that term to be something close to what I'm trying to tell them, I'll use it. I would use it now. I would use it today. But people in the West will seem to understand, most of them. Some people get Brahman, but most people will know the word oneness. And you may think you know what it means, but you can't know what it means because there's only oneness. There's oneness, and there's no one to know what that means. There's just oneness. There's no one to figure this out. There's no one to get anything. There's just, when there's Brahman, it just means the one thing. And then the para-Brahman is beyond the one thing. But we see the one thing first, and I may see that for a long time. We may never notice para-Brahman. Doesn't matter. The big deal is to see Brahman as being your experiencing. It's not a God over there. I mean, I think I have a statue in here that's of Brahman, but you know, if it was a real statue of Brahman, then it would look like all of us. And instead, we can't do that. So it's just some form that somebody took on and said, this is Brahman, and let's worship it. And it's just an idea. It's a concept, and there's no harm in worshiping Brahman at all. Because if the idea gets through, we can call it Curly Joe, and it doesn't make any difference as long as the idea comes through, as long as the concept is grasped on hold of. Doesn't mean that that's it, that there's now enlightenment there, but it does mean that the platform upon which enlightenment can occur is now in place. Because you can't, we think about awakening, and think about awakening, and think about awakening. Well, once we wake up, we'll notice it wasn't thought. Doesn't have anything to do with thought. Awakeness itself is not a user of thought. Why would it think about anything? There's nothing else but it. There's nothing for it to think about. Everything is. Get that word in your mind in a big way. Big I-S, capital I, capital S, just big. Big as like the Washington Monument. Think of it like that. Is. Everything is. And then think about the Washington Monument goes all the way to the moon, and then it goes all the way to what we would have to call infinity, which is not a place, it's the absence of a place. It's not a distance, it's the absence of distance. So in other words, we don't know what we mean when we mean Brahman, but what we're indicating is something vast, and it is the vast thing, and everything arises from Brahman. And you, that the will unit that believes itself to not be Brahman, you have arisen from Brahman without leaving it. So you are standing on the platform, only you are the platform also. It's like an actor with his and his feet grow into the stage, right? And so go after the truth and not the actor. The actor will be taken care of. You've noticed that. Keith talked about the fact, that he would like to worry, but he noticed that he's always been taken care of. And that's what I've noticed, is that beyond, and I've been in just terrible fixes. You haven't heard much of my story, but it's quite a story. It'll put you on the edge of your seat. And out of all of that, here this body is. It's exactly where it was going the whole time.
Yes.
I didn't know that. You know why? Because there's no one here to know that. There's no I. And awakeness doesn't know that because awakeness has no sense of past or future. Awakeness is here, now, this now. This is awakeness. This is awakeness. That's awakeness. That Buddha, awakeness. That wall, awakeness. It's awakeness with a Buddha suit, a wall suit, a Keith suit, a Will suit, a Fred suit.
Oh, wow.
And on and on and on. But it's just, what we have really here is we have perfect communion. But we don't notice it. It can't be seen from the human form. I mean, it just can't be. I mean, you can be, you are the aliveness of the human form. But when I say the human form can't see it, it's because there's no character captive to the body. There's awakeness is the aliveness that you feel. You know you're here right now, don't you? Or you feel that you are here. So notice that even that's Brahman. You notice it. It's here. It's here right now. That's the reason at the beginning of every session, I'm using a different language, but I am saying, let's take 2 or 3 minutes, everybody, and notice Brahman and know that we are it. And that's what I'm really saying in different words. And I use English language. It's the only language that I know. And I noticed that seems to be a desperate need for real truth by way of the English language. I don't have the market cornered, but there's not nearly so much of it as we think. These satsang teachers are just not nearly where most of them think they are. Some of them are fabulous. And all of them may be helpful. I'm not saying that they're bad. They can't do anything. The only thing you can do is what you're doing. You think you've made a decision to come here today. You didn't. There's no you there. It's what happened. You end up here because you couldn't be anywhere else.
Yeah.
So that's what we mean by this is it.
Yes.
We say that this is it. We're not talking about that there's something that compares to this, because there is nothing to compare to this. There's just this. And there's no alternative to this, because things cannot be another way. This is it. And this is it, but the content of the dream, of the manifestation, is constantly changing, but that which is witnessing the changing of the content does not itself change ever. But it does appear to come and go, because there's the sense of being, but whose is that? Can you find the one that belongs to? No, that's not, because it's not will that has a sense of being. It's the sense of being that has a sense of being. The sense of being has a sense of itself. And it's from that platform that awakening springs. Is the I am. This is it. There's only what is. And many ways to say the same thing. But the what is, there's what is, but what happened right before the Big Bang? So you're not allowed to ask that you can't know if anything was going on, but it feels like there must have been something before, but it might have been nothing. But something doesn't come from nothing. So it was nothing that we could comprehend. That doesn't mean it's not. That's the reason I never told anybody that I either am awake or I'm not awake, because the sense of I am it's a story. The story. It's Awakeness's first story. I am. And when that's been going on long enough, it'll come to think I am will. Because you were trained to think that by your parents. They only doing the same thing their parents did for them. Everybody's parents trains them into believing that they are one little unit. And that's good. That's good for relativity. But it's going to keep us from knowing the truth. I had a session not too long ago with a client, and they just told me all the intimate details of their life, and it was fabulous for both of us. And it was not something that most people would ever talk to somebody else about straight up, but we have a relationship that allowed for that. And that confession, as you said, that's so healthy for us. And this unit is constantly, I mean, pretty regularly at least, it doesn't have that much to report, but it's pretty regularly pointing out where it was unconscious, where it made did something unskillful, and because as long as I can do that, there's hope for me, whatever is saying this, but there's hope because there's a willingness to not protect the ego. There's more of a draw toward truth than there is toward protecting ego. And that in itself is huge. That's exactly why most people do not wake up, is that there's the feeling that we must protect the ego at all costs. But I want to wake up. But then we hear that the ego never wakes up. I should be clearer than this. I should be smarter than this. I should be faster than this. I should have more money than this. I should be better looking than this. And own and own and own and own. And it never ever stops. And what happens is that the truth, it's not that the truth is that hard to find. It's the fact that nobody's looking for it. That's